All the action from SuperGP Champions Trophy, proudly brought to you by Digital Entertainment On Demand and their associate sponsors.
Dio SuperGP Champions Trophy round number 4 brings us here, Red Star Raceway in Delmas. It's the middle of winter. It's clear though, and we're going to have some cracking racing. Let's start off by looking at the SuperGPs. Greg, Harron coming off 2 victories at Cape Town. He's on form.
Certainly is, but he's going to be pushed hard by both the Yamahas, Clint and Matthew Skoltz getting to grips with their new machinery. And they've had a little bit of testing time now, so I think 3 riders at the front end and the 2 BMWs, we're going to have an epic battle.
Spoke to Ricky Marias, dialed in the suspension a little bit better, says they're definitely going to be on point. A hard braking circuit this, especially for the 1000cc machines. They're going to have to work hard. Super 600s, the story is everyone queuing up to fight it out with reigning champion Odendaal. And there is a ton of them. Here, it's a bit of a leveler. I think there's a lot of guys that can run on the same half second.
Oh, Magic Mike White will definitely be a specialist at this circuit. You'll also get to see a lot of the other little riders coming up and fighting. Blaze Baker is itching for a first victory. So keep an eye out and see how those Kawasaki's go. As you can see in the background, the Super Juniors are out here for the very first time, and they're on the short circuit. And the battle between them in Cape Town and in every single round we've had so far has been some of the best racing we've seen in a long time.
And we've got the might of Cape Town. They have made the trip up, so it is going to be all-out war. Expect a 7-rider bunch. The short circuit delivering around about a 45-second lap, keeping things nice and tight. Before we get to the short circuit, let's go to the long circuit, courtesy of GoPro and Brent Harron.
Yeah, Harron on form at the moment, so he is a Gauteng local, going to show us the way down the start-finish straight into the S's, and then you go down the highway. We call it the N4. It is the longest straight in Gauteng racing.
Yeah, it's one of the longest on the circuits all around the country as well. It's everything she got, and down to the 100-meter marker, 50-meter marker, down to 4th gear, possibly down to 3rd. There you can see he banged it down to 3rd gear, and through a left-hander that brings you into the dog bone.
Very technical section here. Some of the riders will be tickling the top end of 2nd gear. Some of the riders tickling up into 3rd gear, trying to work on the torque.
Yeah, as you come into Discover Digital and Pirelli, that's part of the dog bone. This is where Brent Harron starts to maneuver that bike all around. You can see getting almost an elbow down and that arrow helmet nearly touching the curbing.
At the end of the section, you're going to be flipping it over and start to climb up the revs. This is the setup to the short straight, which brings you back straight into the eyes of everyone hanging over the pit wall.
Yeah, very tight right-hander here through Pirelli, and now everything she's got up this little short straight. It'll probably get you close to the 250k an hour mark on 1,000, and then bang it down into 3rd. And then it's 3rd gear almost through this entire section.
1, 2, 3 apexes the whole way through this massive portable shade 180. One of the hardest corners because it is all about edge grip.
Now then you're coming through the left-hander and into the NGL Logistics Complex. It's a complex of 4 corners. The second last one they come up to now is a full 180-degree right-hander. And look how low Harron gets.
Yeah, it is short, squirt, back on it, and then you build up. This is very tricky because running this way around, slightly off camber into the final turn.
The final turn is an off-camber one. You can see him coming up on a back marker. It looks like Lance Isaacs is coming up on the back end now. And everything she's got across the line. Try not to run across the red stripe. And that's a lap of Red Star Raceway, courtesy of GoPro. Some of the best racing we've seen in the Dio SuperGP Champions Trophy has come out of our Super Junior category. And right now, there are a couple of riders on track in the background, as you can see, starting to get things warmed up for race number 1 here today at Red Star Raceway. The championship is up for grabs. We've got 2 Cape Town boys, Staffen and Snyman, fighting with William Friend for the possible first championship in the Super GPs. This is going to be a great day's racing for these youngsters.
So front row, William Friend takes pole position on a relatively slow time in the morning chilly conditions. Tyrese Robert in 2nd place. And on the front row, Brandon Staffen from Cape Town. His first ever time here at Red Star Raceway.
Lance Moran, Dominic Doyle and Luca Coccioni, followed by Reinhold Jabert and Jenna Lee Ecott at the back. Oh, Doyle with a bit of a bucking bronco as they started there and got going down towards turn 1, but it got him off the line nicely and he actually slotted up into about 5th place.
Staffen takes the whole shot, but watch out for the local knowledge. William Friend knows that the long way round is the way to work it at Red Star.
Yeah, nice move. Remember, this is the short circuit, so they cut straight into NGL Logistics corner. And as they come into this complex, you can see just how tight things have got. And all of a sudden, the Cape Town boys are looking to get to the front.
Big loser here, Luca Coccioni, not getting the drop off the line, dropping outside the top 6. So the podium finisher from Cape Town not finding his feet in the early stages. Staffen, still, he actually spoke to him off camera and before the racing, said he's really battling with these late apex turns.
Trying to get everything right, but across the line it was all about William Friend. On his tail was Lance Moret, who'd had the best start right from the word go, and already putting pressure on was Tyrese Roberts, sneaking through on the 22.
Yeah, remember, the local riders do run this as part of the Northern Regions Championship. Dominic Doyle was showing his skills as well. The rider that really battled with the long circuit down at Cape Town was enjoying the short circuit as he came through on Joubert.
Yeah, it was a great move to move these youngsters onto the small circuit to keep the racing tight, and that's exactly what happened all through the race, with Tyrese Roberts actually sneaking through and getting ahead of Lance Moret to lead things out for the battle for second. William Friend, as the background we saw some action, and Doyle got out of shape.
That was Staffen as well. Staffen from Cape Town throwing it down the road, actually high-siding one of these KTM 390s, just had the thing cranked over, and the lightweight rider just could not get the power down. The bike spat him off.
Yeah, incredibly, it was great maneuver there from Dominic Doyle. I thought it was him initially as Staffen went down, but Doyle was the man who actually had to take evasive action. And then it was all about fighting for the rest of the podium. And yes, sneaking through was Coccioni, now making up for that bad start.
Rhino Joubert had some problems, as did second fastest qualifier Tyrese Roberts. In a comfortable second place, extending away from Lance Moret, he also suffered with the side grip and just said goodbye to all of those points.
Unfortunately, just pushing too hard right in the closing stages there. The pit board was warning him to slow down, but of course you don't tell the youngsters at this level to slow down. They give it everything they've got until the checkered flag comes out.
That was right at the end of the 180 portable shade turn, which meant that Wild William Friend was untroubled. It looked like Robert was going to be able to close him down, and he was definitely on the limit. That caused the crash. In the end, though, it was a flag-to-flag victory for poleman, Gauteng's own William Friend.
Amazing run there from Wild William to take the victory. Lance Moret would hang on to take second place across the line. A super run from the youngster from Cape Town, and you can see just how stoked he was. But in third place, Dominic Doyle just beat Coccioni to the line, with Reinhold Joubert there in fifth place and Jenna Lee hanging on for sixth. Tyrese eventually got back up and finished seventh, and Brandon Staffen, unfortunately, with the DNF down in eighth place.
Great to see the youngsters. Great battle up.
The Wild Will back on top once again.
We've been having problems since Malcolm's first race, and then we've just been missing. So when I came here and started the whole weekend, we were faster than everyone else, and I just worked my way from the start.
Hi, I'm Brandon Staffen. I currently race in the Super Junior category on a KTM RC390. I'm currently sponsored by Keating & Janssen. This is my NGL Logistics delivered to you in 60 seconds. My proudest moment was when I won my first race ever on an NSF, and I felt really good. My mom was very proud of me. My favorite racetrack is Swarkorps because I won my first ever national there. My favorite sport other than motorsport is golf because I love playing an afternoon game with my father. My favorite sports car has to be a Porsche because it sounds really nice. My motorbike sounds like a big fart. My biggest rival is my brain because sometimes it doesn't work properly. I'd prefer a mountain bike because you can do more with it. My favorite cartoon has to be Tom and Jerry because they're very funny. Instagram because there's so many more pictures you can see. This is me, Brandon Stafford, delivered to you in 60 seconds by NGL Logistics.
Time to get those Pirelli girls off the grid for race number 2 now. Will William Friend go for a perfect day in the saddle?
Staffen was back into the mix after throwing himself down the road in spectacular fashion, and the whole shot kid from Cape Town almost hit the front once again.
Yeah, but he decided to run on the inside, and once again Tyrese Roberts used that local knowledge, used the outside line, as did Coccioni and Dominic Doyle, to show Staffen the way around the first turn into Pirelli.
Dominic Doyle coming off his first ever national podium, the all-orange machine, brimming with confidence heading into race number 2 and wanting to take it one step further.
The only man who had the biggest confidence out there at this stage was the man who led things out. The number 34, Wild William Friend, not going to be troubled by anybody here today. The battle was for second.
Lance Moret, the 99, coming off an overall victory just 1 week prior at the massive circuit of Pekisa was also starting to build up pace and seemed to be able to put his bike wherever he liked on the circuit.
Nice to see Lance Murray starting to get back into the mix too. The two Cape Town boys were going at it hammer and tongs, trying to close in on Doyle, who'd opened up a little bit of margin there, along with Tyrese Robert, who started to look like they were going to be taking second and third on this podium.
Staffen on the 95 machine was visibly rattled and had no edge grip confidence at all. Just could not carry the corner speed, and that would see him fade down the order.
Tyrese was using very late braking tactics to keep the rest of the field out and not allow them to get past, but it was slowing him down through the cornering. And eventually, Dominic Doyle had a big look on the inside and eventually made a stick.
Doyle was the danger man here in race number 2, and he finally got some clear air. Would he be able to break the pack and get them off his tail?
They could just get one position to get away from Tyrese. Now that Tyrese looked back, straight into the eyes of Staffen and Murray.
Murray was definitely the danger man in this pack. Not a good start, couldn't get off the line properly, and in the short circuit, the taller rider was really battling to get that slipstream effect. Once again, Coccione was battling here in race number 2.
Coccione started to close in ever so slightly. Generally, Eco's still going ahead as well, right in the back end of the field. It was Brandon Staffen and Reinhold Jabert that were starting to feel the effects here of being slightly bigger riders on the shorter circuit.
William Friend was miles out front. It was all about the second place war that was raging between Doyle and the 22 of Robert.
Tyrese Robert looking absolutely amazing here this weekend and has certainly got to grips with this KTM. So have all the riders. And they've got to grips with these KTMs and really started to show what a spectacle the Super GP and Super Junior class is particularly.
At the back of the pack, Jenna Claire Eckert was having her problems. Hadn't had a good time in practice and qualifying, and unfortunately she would go down around about half race distance. So the 41, unfortunately, would have to step out once again.
Not able to get back up on the bike, and that was her out of race number 2. But the race was still on for second place as Dominic Doyle held off the charges. 1 from 99, that is Lance Murray, and 22, Tyrese Robert.
Yeah, the pace was definitely dropped off, though. Doyle wasn't able to stretch away. In fact, it looked like Murray was going to have the beating of him.
And speaking of beating off, Brandon Staffen was beating everybody in terms of lap times and set the new lap record of a 53.8 on a KTM.
Just not quite enough seat time to get himself up there in the race, but a flyer of a lap. No one was catching Wild William Friend, and all the problems from the previous round at Cape Town were a long distant memory. It was all about checkered flags in races 1 and 2 for Wild Will, who stayed out front and extended his lead in the championship.
A great run there from Wild William Friend, but look how close it was for second. Across the line, Dominic Doyle, only a few hundredths of a second, beating out Lance Murray for the podium. Amazing stuff from our Super Juniors yet again here at Red Star Raceway, with the top 3 very, very evenly matched, and you can see Tyrese Robert also in with a chance of now starting to become a championship threat.
Crashes from race 1, Tyrese Robert and Staffen recovering for a 4th and 5th respectively.
Matt Friend happy with his youngster being on top of the podium once again. Well done, Wild William.
Well, I tried to get the best start that I could, but fortunately I didn't, but I worked my way up to get a good podium, so keeping up the points. So
started off, got quite a good start and got into third or fourth lap or fifth lap. Got past Tyrese and then I just went on from there.
Yeah, there's nothing to describe my happiness right now. I'm so happy to take both, and I'd like to thank KTM, my parents, and Uncle Richard for getting me here.
Join us after the break for the Super 600 action from Red Star.
Super 600s, and the story of the season has been championship points leader Stephen Odendahl running away with it. But at Cape Town, he had his own problems. It's going to be an extremely close race, and we expect to see the times extremely tight. Probably around about 7 riders all over each other, but Odendahl is going to want to turn around his season and walk away with double victories, leaving round number 4.
To everyone's surprise, Stephen Odendahl was not on pole. It was Adolf the Cowboy Boshoff who'd gone almost a second quicker, and then Michael White in 3rd place.
Blaise Baker, Nicole van Ausviken, and Anthony Shelley in 6th. First time out for him on the MTech Nashua Yamaha.
Darian Kaiser made a welcome return back into Super 600s, but they're all trying to catch that man there, Adolf Boshoff. Then it was the Near Life powered by Yamaha and Magic Mike White on the front row.
The wild child, he would be a crazy kid to watch out for. But Poleman, was the biggest danger.
See what he's like off the line. A great start from Booch as he gets off and heads down with the number 1 plate into the whole shot position. Look on the inside. Shelley going for a slightly different line. He moves up a couple of positions, and Darian Kaiser getting boxed out by Doran Lareo. First time for him in Super 600s. But where was Blaze Baker going?
Blaze Baker was trying to get home early, trying to get onto the highway and head down to Durban, but he would have to come all the way from the back of the pack. There would be time in the race, but it would be a huge ask.
Unfortunately, shoulder injury with Darian Kaiser was hindering his performance and not allowing him to get to the front end, where this battle continued to rage almost every single time they climbed on the brakes.
The front punch was a wild one at that. The incredible story, though, was that Odendaal wasn't able to break away once again. Very similar situation as to what we saw down in Cape Town with Sheridan Marias going with him. This time around, though, as we said at the beginning of the show, there would be 4 riders, possibly 5, able to run the big numbers.
One of the biggest surprises in that 5-rider pack was Malcolm Rudman. He'd certainly got to grips with what that Kawasaki could do. After climbing off the Yamaha, he decided the green machine was the way to go, and it certainly looked that way.
Yeah, just 2 rounds ago, stepped off the tuning forks. Adolf Boshoff, the pole man, eventually made the move in the more technical lower part of the track to get up the inside and lead the race ahead of championship points leader, as Rudman threw it down in spectacular fashion on for a top 5 finish.
Yeah, coming out of Discover Digital, unfortunately, he just climbed on the accelerator a little bit too hard, and that front end looped out. He was down and out of race 1.
That meant that the top 4 were in the breakaway, and it was right at the exit, just before he flipped it over, and the back end said no more.
It's all about the Cowboy Boshoff at the front end, and Adolf Boshoff was certainly looking to keep everybody behind him. The massive moves started to come from behind, though, and Magic Mike had the rearview mirrors on and realized he had to get ahead of the Neolife powered by Yamaha machine of Odendaal, because in the background, Anthony Shelley was on a big charge.
Odendaal got caught tire watching there for a second, as it was a very wide line setting up the last sector of the track for Adolf Boshoff. Magic Mike didn't need to be asked twice, but the Yamaha power looked like it had the big fight back on the short straights.
Fantastic to see the 2 Yamahas and 2 Kawasaki's fighting for honours as they came into the closing stages of the race. Odendaal decided, right, let's turn the wick up and get away from these boys, if I can.
Shoved it up the inside, saw clear air. Boshoff, though, the crazy cowboy, got it back up the inside, and all the while, Shelley was slowly but surely joining the party. He was in 4th, it became 3rd, and quickly became 2nd. 2 Yamahas led for the first time at this round.
That was the first time we're going to see Anthony Shelley at the front end of a Super 600 since the last time we came to Red Star Raceway, and he was on board a Kawasaki. This time out on the factory-supported Yamaha, and what a move for the MTech Racing team to see the man who'd stepped into Sheridan Marias' shoes as he was on international duty, and it looks like he was cementing an opportunity to ride for this team for the rest of the season.
Shelley had come off a 6th place qualifier. By his own admission, just not enough seat time on the bike. It was a very late deal to step into those shoes and get onto the spare machine, but he was learning lap by lap, corner by corner, what he and the machine were capable of.
Yeah, incredibly, only 24 hours on the bike, and in fact, of those 24 hours, he probably only spent about 3 of them on the actual machinery. So what a move there from MTech to put this man on. He is a Red Star specialist, but he certainly knows his way around other circuits on this country too.
Boshoff was trying to get through. It was clear that Shelley's outright race pace out front was not able to break the pack. Odendaal was coming through, as was poleman Boshoff. Magic Mike, though, was very quietly sitting there waiting for something to happen.
There was an extremely close maneuver there between the 2 Kawasaki's and Yamahas, and Magic Mike sneaking through on Odendaal. Odendaal looked pretty comfortable, though. No matter who was leading, he always had a chance of sneaking through. Boshoff just forced Shelley wide, opened up the door, and Magic Mike came through as well. A little bit of banging between the 2 of them, but fortunately both riders staying upright.
Boshoff ran a very wide line there, and he was the rider to try and break away. In the last 3 laps, there was a breakout for the 2 Kawasaki boys to try and run ahead of the Yammies, and it was almost half a second.
With 1 lap to go, it was now who was going to be the lead Yamaha, and it was definitely not going to be Shelley, according to Stephen Odendaal. He decided to do it early on in the lap and got through heading into the Red Star Raceway chicane.
It seemed to be the story of the race was the top end power. Right at the top of the gears and the rev range was where the Yamahas were at their best, so they would be joining the party at the bottom of the N4 highway.
Coming down into Discover Digital and to the Diode section, you can see just how hard Odendaal was trying to push, but he'd lost too much ground, and it was all about the cowboy. Boshoff had this in the bag, and I think he was going to lead to the line.
all the way down the start-finish straight. Magic Mike tags his highest national finish as well. Kawasaki's 1-2, Yamaha's 3 and 4, and what an arrival for Shelley. Odendahl, enough points to keep him in the hunt though.
Fantastic run from Nicole van Arsvegen as well, as she battled for the lower honours of 5th place with Doran Lareo. First time out for Doran, and a magic outing for him as well, just behind Nicole van Arsvegen.
Confirmation then, Adolf Bossov converts his pole position into a win. Mikey White played a good game to get 2nd place ahead of championship points leader Odendahl and the new Yamaha signing of Shelley in 4th.
Big celebrations down at the podium area, and Adolf Bossov probably the most excited and probably the happiest man on the podium.
I'm not happy with the result, but you know, I'll take a 3rd. The guys ahead of me rode really well, and you know, just lacking a bit of rear traction. But unfortunately, we finish in 3rd, and luckily we have another race. So we're gonna have to see what happens in that one.
Extremely happy. We knew it'd be good, yeah. We struggled a bit on top end, so we had to ride extra hard in the corners, but all around it was a great race. I couldn't do any better. Well done to Dolph, he rode hard. I must say he's riding very, very well, and congrats to everyone.
Without the sponsors, I wouldn't be here. And I would just like to thank Uncle Steve, Indy Oil, RSA Racing from Uncle Army. Everyone, just a big shout out. Without you guys, I couldn't do this. And this win would go out to my friend Leon Buerta. He's going through a tough time at this stage. I love you, bro. And yeah, let's hope there's more good racing the second heat.
How's it? My name is Blaze Baker, currently riding in the Super 600 Championship, riding for Russellwood Muscle and Fitness Gym, and this is my NGL logistics delivered to you in 60 seconds. My proudest moment will definitely have to be my double 2nd place at the Durban Street Race. Favorite racetrack on the SuperGP calendar is definitely going to have to be the home one at Durban. My favorite superhero is the Powerpuff Girls. My motorbike sounds like bum bum bum. My biggest rival is definitely Adolf Bossov. Had some good dances with them all through my racing career. My most prized possession is definitely my little kitten at home. Always bringing love and happiness into my life. Favorite actress is Mila Kunis. Instagram, give me a follow, BlazeBaker51. That's me, Blaze Baker, delivered to you by NGL Logistics in 60 seconds.
So that's Blaze, and he is going to have to figure things out going forward into race number 2. He did climb the ladder last time around, but with the pace of these lads running out front, you cannot make any mistakes at all.
Yeah, you can't go down into turn 1 and go straight, Blaze Baker, and hopefully that's not what's going to happen this time out. As they come to take up their positions for race number 2, it's the number 1 plate. It has a lot to do this time out.
Bossov on pole once again, but the rocket ship, Stephen Odendahl, right from the middle, switches across to the outside and gets the whole shot once again. This time around though, it's Shelley that goes into the 2 spot.
Incredibly, from 5th place on the grid, Michael White sneaks through into 3rd place, beating the pole man into the Red Star chicane, and Adolf Bossov gets dropped down into 4th place. A nice start there once again from Rudman, and an even better start this time from Darian Kaiser on the Uncle Andy's Racing Kawasaki. But further down, but remember, he is battling with a shoulder injury.
But Blaze Baker was in the mix in the top 6, but out the back of the pack was all about Rudman, and clearly the bike wasn't rock and roll. After it went down the road, there was some problems on that machine.
Bossov sneaks through as they come into the dog bone for the very first time. And Anthony Shelley get the motor down 1 position, but there is a battle royal there between 4 riders, and Baker is with them this time. So we now have an opportunity to see things going completely right. Unfortunately, at the end, a little bit of issues on Baker's bike of that first lap, and you can see him falling by the wayside and out of the hunt for 1st place.
The great story about this round here, in the deep dark of winter, was no one was breaking away at the front. Dazzler, Darian Kaiser, still nursing those shoulder injuries after going down the road hard in qualifying in Cape Town, was at the back of the pack, not where we would expect to see him, and he was grouped and just following Ricky Lee Weir around, trying to get some mileage into those muscles.
Ricky Lee Weir just having some fun and games on that Kawasaki and working hard as he looks to step up next year onto 1,000 and a BMW. At that.
Joking. Man, oh man, that's going to be a wild kid to watch out for. The top 4 though, stretching things away. No one was able to hang tough with the heroes from race number 1.
Amazing stuff between these 4 riders, and the Kawasaki's, as we heard from Michael White, battling a little bit on top end. So that's why you can see the two Yamahas using their ability on that top end to get past and sneak ahead. But unfortunately, Shelley just couldn't get ahead of the Cowboy.
Such a good leveler, though, the Red Star Raceway. In the technical zones, it looked like the Kawasaki's corner speed and edge grip definitely had it in hand, and the Yamahas just could not get those tight lines to run.
That was the first time that Undal had been demoted off the front end of this race. So we're in for an absolutely epic battle. Bossoff getting out the saddle onto the N4.
Late in the race, you could see that the temperatures were dropping, tires were falling off, and more than anything else, Kawasaki's were in trouble.
You can see just how hard they were battling with those Yamahas, and eventually the Yamahas both went 1 and 2. Shelley leading things out with Undal on his tail. But Bossoff wasn't giving up the fight, neither had Michael White. White wanted a double podium and would do anything to get through.
Yeah, the elbow grinder was just sitting out there in 4th place, waiting for it all to unfold. Bossoff was the rider that he was putting his faith into, but the back end of Bossoff's bike was loose and twitching, and you could see he was not getting the drive he needed to. If Magic wanted to run in the top 3, he would have to pull the pin and get around Bossoff.
It was incredible to watch Anthony Shelley for the first time out on that MTech National Yamaha, doing the deed and doing it all right. Unfortunately, he had a battle on his hands with the second of those Yamahas, and who was going to be the lead Yamaha and possibly the winner of this race.
The Red Star Raceway specialist, Shelley, had his problems in the technical zone. Lack of time on the machine, lack of setup, were unfortunately starting to hurt the kid.
Definitely getting some valuable seat time. And speaking of seat time, that's not where you want to be seated, Mr. Bossoff.
Not out of it anyway.
That's for sure.
Bossoff just showing that the rear end grip was just not there on his Kawasaki, and Magic Mike happy to slide on through.
And ask me why he's called the Cowboy, because no one can handle a Bronco like that man can. Brilliant stuff there from Bossoff to maintain and stay on the track and stay in the hunt. And the hunt was between the two Yamahas and Magic Mike.
Late on the brakes at the bottom of the N4 highway, going into Dio Dogbone, and it was a Yamaha tuning fork in-house battle. Odendal on the Neo Life, powered by Yamaha Red Machine, was chasing down on the factory-supported Nashua MTech Racing Yamaha of Shelley.
In fact, Shelley was going so well that he set the new lap record here for the team. So amazing bit of running there from the young man on a brand new bike that he'd only climbed on less than 12 hours ago. So amazing effort from the entire team too. And you can see it was definitely paying dividend here. He was not out and was definitely not down for the count.
Magic was on the money at this stage, and he then really reacted to the pace of the Yamahas out front and wanted to get on through badly.
In the closing stages, the Yamahas also started to battle a little bit with conditions getting cooler and cooler as they went down the N4. Undal pulled out of the slipstream and looked to go up the inside, but you will never outbrake Anthony Shelley down into the Discover Digital and Diode area.
Bossoff did a big outbraking maneuver, benefiting massively from the slipstream door that got opened and got on through ahead of Magic Mike. But remember, the tires on Bossoff's bike were gone.
See a nice move there and an attempted move from Undal. Unfortunately, just running wide as they came into the Dio Dogbone. And it was all about Shelley hanging on, realizing that Undal was going to run wide and just cutting back.
Real late in the race once again, and everyone gets forced out wide. Shelley, the big loser, as Odendal backs her in, opens up the door. Bossoff, first man to walk on through with a VIP ticket.
Yeah, awesome bit of riding there from Adolf Bossoff, and a nice recovery considering he nearly went down earlier on in the race. It was now down to the wire. Who was going to hang on? It was all about Undal taking a slightly wider and sweeping line to take him across to the checkered flag. And what a run there from the Neolife, powered by Yamaha team, taking the victory. Shelley nearly sneaking through for second, but Bossoff just hanging on.
The champ was back, and at the back of the pack, it was all about Darian Kaiser. He had been stalking the back end of Ricky Lee Weir the whole way through the race, and eventually he got rewarded with a 9th place finish at the flag as a wagging tail of Weir made it a top 10.
So confirmation of the results, Undal, Bossoff and Shelley are top 3 on the podium. Michael White came through for 4th place and Blaze Baker. Don Larea would join them on the podium as well as our Rookie of the Day.
In Park for May, joy and celebrations all around. And the tears from Cape Town are gone. It's been replaced with a massive smile as Odendal extends his lead.
I only climbed on the bike Saturday morning for the first time. I sat on it, it felt quite good, and I was actually happy with how it felt. And from the word go, I just loved the bike, and it was a completely different bike to the ZX6. It's a bike that I love. It's just something different. And yeah.
In the beginning, Stephen picked the pace up big time, and I tried to hang in there, and then Shelley came to the party and mixed everything up, and my game plan didn't go as planned. So I had to figure out another strategy, and yeah, just try to go as late as I can on the brakes. And then, unfortunately for Anthony, he went wide into the corner, and I just took second from him.
You know what? These guys rode absolutely excellent, and I take my hat off to both of them. You know, I'm just very happy with the number one eventually in the end of the day. And without the team, without everyone that's pushing me to push that number one plate, I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Join us after the break for the showstopper, the Super GPs.
With 3 different winners and 3 different manufacturers on top of the podium so far in the SuperGP Champions Trophy, round 4 could possibly see a 4th. Will Matthew Scholz and the MTech Racing Yamaha be able to get onto the top of the podium and take the fight to Brent Herron on his Kawasaki, Lance Isaacs on the BMW, and the other Yamaha-mounted rider, Clint Seller, our current champion? Well, Lance Isaacs and Clint Seller actually had a bit of a surprise going into this round as they found out via MSA's appeal that Matthew Scholz had actually taken the victory down in Cape Town.
Super Pole was the order of the day, and Red Star Raceway always an incredible leveler. So hard to get that perfect lap, and the first time in 2015 at least that the riders had gone anti-clockwise to throw down the big lap.
Brandon Good, as always, getting to grips with the Nashua MTech Yamaha and slowly but surely making his way into a hunt for potential podiums. And he looked pretty good on his Super Bowl run.
Yeah, one of the riders that said he has massively benefited from the inclusion of the new machinery, battling with old equipment, and this time around he would find some improvement on the new Yamaha R1.
Going across the line and setting what would be provisional pole was a great effort from Brandon Good.
His teammate Matthew Scholz, and on paper everyone knew coming into this round Scholzy was a huge threat, not only in this round, but also moving forward from this round in the championship hunt.
Yeah, there were some concerned faces down in the Neolife powered by Yamaha team, as well as in the Black Swan BMW camp. And Matthew Scholz's name was definitely being taunted in those 2 camps.
It was clear that the settings on the bike were much better than the previous round down at Cape Town, and Scholzy would jump straight up onto provisional pole with an electric lap.
Brilliant riding from the young man. It was all about the champion to try and take him on, and would Clint Seller be beaten again? He'd already had one of the Super Poles taken away from him. Could he have another one here? And would it be Matthew Scholz on a similar machine?
Only beaten at Swartkops in the last year and a half of racing as far as the Super Bowl crown goes, and Seller was looking like he was on rails.
Nothing wrong with the motorcycle at all, and Seller just putting everything right in terms of getting the lap times, hitting the right apexes, climbing on the brakes at the right spot, and accelerating to perfection. And when I say to perfection, once again, to Super Pole victory.
No movement of the back end, all about momentum going forward, and the king was back, and he would head up the grid going forward into the racing.
Clint Seller, Matthew Scholz, and Brandon Good made it a Yamaha front row for the very first time in a very long time for Yamaha in motorcycle racing in South Africa.
Isaacs has a rough qualifier in 6, and in the Super M's, Red Star Raceway's own Jacques van Venkart gets his own pole.
Back up on the top of the Super Pole, Clint Seller, the king of Super Pole.
I think the Yamaha, it really likes this place. You know, the way the bike turns and the way it brakes at lean angles is just, it's mind-boggling. So I think you're definitely going to see the Yamaha boys with a bit of an edge.
A 14-lapper race for the big bangers to go out there and get the job done. And it would be a huge story to see if there was any kind of in-race reaction from the BMW boys that really couldn't come to grips with the pace of the Kawasaki and a ton of Yamahas.
Jacques van Venkart, the big boss of Red Star Raceway, was looking forward to going at it, along with Johan Otto in the Super M's, combined with Super GP for race number 1. On the lineup, Clinton Seller in a great position, but as the Super 600 showed us, right in the middle, the qualifying spot so often converted into a hole shot, and that was all about Scholzy. Herron, though, massive move up into 2nd place off the line. Yeah, from 4th place, he moved up ahead of all 3 but 1 Yamaha. Unfortunately, down that back straightaway and the N4, you could see, as we saw in the 600s, the Yamahas just seemed to have the edge on the top end. And Brent Herron would have to sit behind Seller as they went down into Discover Digital and to the DO Dogbone for the first time.
4th place for Kershaw, so the Benoni Bomber, incredible numbers coming off the line. and he got rid of his poor qualifying result in Superpole to get the numbers going early on.
Also battling with injuries from Cape Town after that incident between himself and Garrick Flock, unfortunately not making it to this round due to some issues with the setup on the bike. He's not quite ready to rock on that BMW, but you can see that the lead BMW was not the Black Swan one, it was the Tsunami Beach Bar bike of the Benoni Bomber. But, as I said that, it was Isaacs who decided, let's change that up a bit.
He bombed it up the inside, and the big loser at the back of this shot was Brandon Good. After qualifying in an incredible third position to get onto the front row, got beaten up badly on lap number 1 and was tickling around off the back wheel of the BMWs that were really battling with the infield section at Red Star.
BMWs were certainly battling, and the most important man out there, of course, is the 38 Special, Sir Lancelot himself, sitting comfortably in a nice position in this championship, but losing ground here dramatically to the front end of this field. And speaking of losing ground, yes, eventually the injuries and feeling a little bit sore started to have its effect on Nicholas Kershaw.
Massive hematoma on his leg. I don't know how he was riding. Scalzi made his own mistakes and life hard for himself as he was leading out front. And Sella didn't have to be asked twice, but these two riders were the class of the field, and by close to the halfway marker had pulled out a huge gap over third place.
Kind of in a league of their own. It would be nice if the third Yamaha was up there, but Brandon Good, as we saw, just got boxed out heading into the Red Star chicane where these two are heading now. A big look back, and you don't have to worry too much because the third bike was nowhere near.
That was Brent Herron. He was running in third place, but his bike had an intermittent electrical problem, and he was going to have to work very hard to hang on to third place on the Metal Center Kawasaki.
R&D would be working hard in between the races to get that sorted out, to try and find some pace to run with these two, who were getting away and opening up a very, very comfortable margin. In fact, such a comfortable margin that even when they were playing like they were here, wheeling up the short straight, side by side, chopping and changing, Sella was still able to put in a 51.8, and that set a brand new lap record around Red Star.
Further back in the pack, there was a recovery from Lance Isaacs. He was closing things down on Herron and Goody, but threw it down the road in spectacular fashion, and we would not see him for the rest of that race.
See just a big high side and a massive amount of airtime there as well as Isaacs went into the final turn. Big pity we lost him there, but unfortunately, all on his own, no one to help him out. And that was him, down and out for race number 1.
Huge ragdoll, but he was definitely on pace, and he was closing things down on the third and fourth place battle.
At the front end, another mistake out of, wow, unbelievably, the championship leader. Sella just lost the front end, going into the second last turn, battled to pick the bike up, but eventually got it back up again and continued to ride.
Shades of 2014, Greg, as our reigning champion, the number 1 plate, goes down, but the gap was so big, he was still able to get up and run in the top 3.
Picked it up nicely, had to do a little bit of work to come through back on Brandon Good and on Herron, but Brandon Good and Herron were having an epic battle. Absolutely amazing to watch these two, 77 and 71 going at it, and two young men that certainly know their way around this track and have spent lots of time fighting for the honors of this black track.
With the electrical problems on the Metal Center Kawasaki holding down the top pace of the Kawasaki, it was a matter of time until the number 1 plate would be able to come through and not claim back just 1 place, but 2 in 1 and get back his second place that he lost through the crash.
Yeah, I think the little battle between the two of them, they didn't realize how quickly Sella was coming. By the time the lap boards came out, it was too late. Sella was there and looking to get the podium. And that would be second place, because there was no way he was going to catch Matthew Scalz.
Scalz, by this stage, almost 20 seconds up the road, and this was where the pin was pulled and the number 1 plate started to charge.
Nice move around the outside from Brandon Good, trying to use the additional power of the Yamaha, riding around the outside of Herron. Herron looked back, and he could see all of a sudden it was his arch rival, the Black Knight and Evil Knievel, about to go at it yet again, and in fact, so hard, nearly taking each other out. Sella was very lucky.
Incredible situation, and this was where the crowd started to realize that the tuning forks, that's Yamaha, were on for a possible 1, 2, and 3 finish.
That would be an incredible outing for Yamaha, particularly considering they've only just come back in a big way. They've been with MTech for a long time. MTech have hung tight to take on the might of the tuning forks, and now with this new machinery, Sella got past, and it was Yamaha 1, 2, and 3.
All he had to do now was chase down on Goody and get back his second place. An incredible come-from-behind recovery, the likes of which you very rarely see in superbike racing. To throw it down the road, get up and finish, yes, but to finish on the podium, possibly, to finish in second, hardly ever.
What I have to say is you have to take it into a supermoto aspect, and a man that rides for Yamaha right now, Michael Koch, would have done something similar on a motocross bike or on a supermoto bike, but we've never seen it done on a superbike. This time it was done. Matthew Scholz would take the victory by 28 seconds, but an amazing effort there from this man who'd come through for second place and just split the two M-Tech bikes for first and third.
As Clinton Seller has famously said in the past, you don't win a championship on your best day, you win it on your worst. And if worst is second place, bring on the trophy.
Yeah, I'll take second place any day of the week. Great effort there from Seller, and he knows that he's still in the hunt. There's confirmation of the results. Scholz, Seller, and Good. Yamaha's 1, 2, and 3. Brent Herron eventually in fourth place on the Kawasaki. Kershaw, the lead BMW, and Jacques van Veenkart winning out the M's.
Down in Park Fermé, we caught up with all reactions from the riders, celebrations all around, and a great reaction from Otto, who got second in the M's.
Make some noise for the Super M riders, guys.
It was a bit hard. Unfit, didn't expect to be racing this weekend, and yeah, well, we made it. What can I say?
I don't think everybody realizes what a honor it is to ride with these gentlemen and to ride with the youngsters and to actually see how fast they really are. It's scary out there, it's nice, I enjoyed them. I want to congratulate each and every one of them and say well done, but the old man's coming.
An all Yamaha podium, and Brandon Good down in third.
I completely messed up my launch control, so I had to really fight back hard past Lance and Kershaw. I mean, it wasn't easy getting past those guys, and then slowly making way up to Brent, but I see he had a problem with his bike sputtering around. It's a pity Lance crashed, and well done to Clinton for falling and then picking it up and finishing second. You know it very well.
That was crazy. I mean, myself and Maddie, we were sort of, I think our pace was quite a lot higher than the other guys could manage. So we had a pretty big gap, and I fell off. I mean, I pitched in too hard at bottom out the front end, and I fell. And I kind of thought that was it. You know what I mean? I picked up the bike as quickly as possible. Saw Brent and Brandon, and I was thinking, man, championship. You know, your mind starts to play all those games. But how awesome to pick it up and then still push to second. I know during the race as well, I did a 51.8, which was awesome as well. So actually, you know what, second place, I'm really, really stoked. Maddie was awesomely fast. Looking forward to the next one because I think we can have lots of fun together. But stoked to finish second after a tough middle of the race.
We were actually riding the older R1 for the first 2 or 3 races, and then we got these brand new bikes before the Cape Town race, and obviously we didn't have much time to actually test. So, you know, from the Cape Town race to now, luckily Ricky has been doing 1 or 2 things, set up the bike better, and we actually came here and we went a whole lot faster than what we thought we would, and both me and Stella ran out front, and unfortunately he crashed, but I'm looking forward to race 2.
We knew the bike was coming. We're very thankful Yamaha that have given us something very competitive. And then to the Nashua M-Tech Yamaha racing team with Ricky Marias, and also to Brad Anastas from Neolife Racing powered by Yamaha. They've put the bike where it does. It's easy to give someone a bike. You've then got to make it competitive. We battled a bit in Cape Town. They got onto the pace. And yes, we're very, very chuffed. We think it's more than likely 2002, 2003 since last time we locked out a podium. So yeah.
Definitely didn't go according to plan. I was actually having a pretty good race after a bad start. I was starting to close down on Brent, who was in third place. And I don't know, turn 13, middle of the turn, for some reason, just ran out of talent. but in all seriousness, I don't know, bike just seemed to let go. I was on the same line, same corner speed, everything mid-corner. For some reason, it just let go, spit me over the high side like in a massive fashion. I don't think I've had as big a high side as that in a long time. But my guys are working tirelessly. They'll get the bike fixed, I'm sure. And we'll be back. We'll have the Black Swan BMW Motorrad bike back on the grid.
Stay with us after the break. It's race 2 action from the Super GPs.
My name's Clinton Seller, and I race in the SuperGP Champions Trophy for Neolife Yamaha, and this is my NGL Logistics delivered in 60 seconds. My proudest moment is definitely my first South African Supersport Championship in 2012 in Cape Town. Favorite sport besides motorsport? I didn't even know there were other sports besides motorsport, but I guess soccer. MotoGP or SBK? I'm probably going to go with SBK. It feels a little bit closer to what we do. My motorbike sounds like a rap. Biggest rival is probably myself. I seem to mess it up more than anyone else. My most prized possession is my fiance. Favorite sports car is Lamborghini Gallardo. Mountain bike or road bike, I'll definitely pick mountain bike. That's what I ride pretty much every day to work. So yeah, my favorite superhero. Never thought about that, but I suppose Batman. Instagram, because I lost my Twitter password. That's me, Clinton Seller, delivered in 60 seconds with NGL Logistics.
Well, to be honest, I would have gone with Evil Knievel as his favorite superhero, but my favorite superhero is out on the grid. Yes, the Hulk, the Wolverine, and Captain America were there too.
Lots of support from riders out of other categories running around the country. Lance Isaacs back on the grid, put himself and the bike back together, and it's go time.
Yeah, incredible to see Karen DeLange and the likes there on the sideline supporting Brandon Good in full superhero livery.
And look at Brandon Good, he is a superhero. He absolutely fluffed the start in race number 1. Couldn't get the launch control figured out. He's got it figured out now. Whole shot for Goody.
Yeah, turned it on and got it perfectly done down into Red Star Chicane. It's Yamaha's 1, 2, and 3 as they head down the N4 and down towards the Dio Dogbone.
Let's see what Lance Isaacs can do. Remember, he is coming off certainly some injuries to himself and the bike, and he's running in an early 5 spot just behind Aaron.
Aaron's got some work to do, and I know that the R&D boys worked frantically to get that metal machine running well. You can see just how hard he was going, but unfortunately it wasn't quite as good as what those 3 Yamahas were able to carry.
Yeah, Metal Center Kawasaki, they did not find the problem, and that's the worst thing when these intermittent things come up. They said he's just going to have to ride around it. Aaron will have to figure it out himself on the track, and on the track out front, it was Nashua M-Tech Racing running 1 and 2. Scalzi getting through at the 3/4 marker on his teammates to run out front.
Eventually finding a way through, and looks like Seller wasn't going to hold back. He realized that if Scalzi got to the front, he had to go with him. And that's exactly what he did, coming out of the NGL Logistics Complex.
So Goody whole shot, down to 2nd, down to 3rd. Now he would have to use everything in his bag of skills to try and run with the numbers out front. But already at the 1/4 marker of the race, the class of the field were gone.
Incredible riding from these two as they got away from Brandon Good, who hung on for 3rd place, but he was starting to fall into the clutches of Brent Herron. Herron had to do it all right here. Lance Isaacs, unfortunately, his weekend continued, and the woes of the weekend were right up there.
You've been speaking about problems on the back end of the BMW. Unfortunately, the thing's spinning up. Maybe a couple of things missed on the rebuild of the Black Swan racing machine, and he would have to just limp around and really try and forget this round of racing. It's been a rough one for BMW.
Looks like Dave had sorted that Kawasaki out and definitely got it back onto a pace that could run with Brandon Good. And the battle was actually one to watch for 3rd place. Brandon Good and Brent Herron going at it. Goody versus the Black Knight. The Black Knight meant business.
Van Venkart still running out there, leading the Super M's and just squeaking his way under the 2-minute lap marker.
Just getting to ride with these guys, as you heard in his interview, is an absolute honor, but it also shows you some slightly different lines and braking markers, and all of a sudden, your riding improves.
Scalzi and Seller were running out front. No one getting into the 51 bracket, that incredible number that the boys were able to run in race number 1. But it looked like it was all games out front. You take your turn, I'll follow around for a while. Thank you very much. Taking a turn, leading a lap, swapping a lap. They'd leave it to the last 3 to make it happen.
The reason for the lap times not coming down was due to the fact that it was so late in the afternoon and the temperature had dropped not only in the ambient temperature but also on the track.
Still no problems for the leaders out front. 3rd place was where it was at though, and Goody had not been able to get rid of Herron.
Great to see these two going at it though and holding nothing back. As you said, it looked like a bit of cat and mouse here. One was having a chance at the front, then giving an opportunity at the front end again. But Scalzi certainly had something up his sleeve and was looking for a double victory, just to cement his comeback for this championship.
What everyone in the know was talking about as Scalzi hit the front once again was, could anyone actually drop the hammer hard enough to break away from either rider? Could Scalzi get away from Seller?
Herron was all over the back of Good, looking for a way through, and it was just a matter of time because Brandon Good was also starting to feel the effect of the lack of temperature on the black stuff.
As we saw in the Super 600s, Kawasaki able to run tighter lines in the tech zone, but the flat-out horsepower was in the hands of the Yammies.
Fortunately, he timed it to perfection and used the short straight. If he'd done that on the longer straight, he probably wouldn't have been able to make that move stick. It was all about Herron now, leading into 3rd place and trying to maintain that until the flag came out.
A very important move to make those numbers as well, as out front, no one had broken away in the top 2 dice. Herron, though, was doing an incredible job on a bike that definitely had some problems out there. You could hear it from the sideline, was not firing as it should. and he was going to try and remain in that third place. A third place that in just a couple of rounds would be a decider in where he finishes in the championship.
He needs to get some more victories. He needs some more podiums higher up than third. And Brandon Good was not going to make that easy for him. Good definitely wanted a podium and wanted to try and make it a double all Yamaha podium for the day.
Exactly. The only man in a position and situation to take anything back was Harren. In through the lappers this time around in race number 1. Jacques van Venkhout actually staying out there and not going a lap down. This time around, got caught on his Super M BMW Red Star Raceway machine right at the closing stages.
Matthew Scholz had opened up a lead, but Kinsella was now starting to look at consolidation. Remember, as you said earlier, Matt, it's not one on your best day, it's one on your worst day. And if this is going to be Kinsella's worst day, nothing wrong with 2 second places. To take the double victory, it was Matthew Scholz.
2 wins and Yamaha would be blowing the internet up with that incredible result. Harren, though, what a result. Talk about doing well on your bad day on a bike that really wasn't firing. The Metal Center Kawasaki came through and got third.
Got back up onto the podium. He was happy with that. Brandon Good eventually in 4th place behind him. As you saw, Nicholas Kershaw, the leading BMW, and the only one to actually finish up. As you saw, a 1 minute and 17 second deficit down to Isaacs. Van Venkhout once again beating Otto in the M's.
So on the podiums, all about Yamaha's
to Matthew Scholz.
And Harren does take some points in third.
Yeah, it just looked like nothing would go our way this weekend. We had problems since Friday practice, Yamahas are looking really, really good. Yeah, congrats to Clint and Matthew. They're riding really, really fast. I think they're like 2 seconds under the lap record, so well done to them. But yeah, I've got to say a big thanks to my team, to Kawasaki, to Metal Center, to KBD Paint Shop, Moroso Pipes, RD Racing, Odin Powersport, 40 Wings. Everyone that's kept us out. It's a difficult weekend, but we got to scratch our heads and come back better at the next one.
The stone happened, I guess, about midway through the race or so, but it belted me in the chest and felt like I was back at school and someone gave me a lamey of note. So my left hand sort of went like a little bit like a dead hand. So missed gears, and then I just decided that, I don't want to go fall off the side of the thing in a left-hander. So, Matthew's pace was unbelievable. So for me, the risks were hugely elevated. He was riding awesome. So congratulations to him. And next race we come back even stronger.
After the Saturday practice, I knew that we had quite a solid pace going, but I never knew that we could pull off the double victory. But I never thought that we'd be fighting for the championship. But after how today's been, I'm really hoping that they can carry on with this form and fight for the championship and be there all season long.
Yeah, fantastic day for Yamaha. It's been great. It's great being back in racing again. It's great being on the podium. And yes, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming to view this event, and for the track for putting on a magnificent event. Red Star's outshone everyone, and I think it's a great event for everyone to come watch in future.
Out of Red Star, we head down to the Eastern Cape. Unfortunately, not to Aldo Scribati, but down to the East London Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, the fastest track in South Africa is going to be host to round number 5.
And another change-up. It's a Saturday, 25th of July. We'll see you there. All this action from the SuperGP Champions Trophy proudly brought to you by Digital Entertainment On Demand and their associate sponsors.